Hey, how you doing you all? In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got into harem with Yu-Gi-Oh girls? Part 1, and if you want more then please leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get in the video. The secret to ninjutsu was speed. In the shinobi world, speed was everything. After all, considering that there was only so much power one could pack into the average human body, speed became the new determining factor in shinobi tactics. That, and stealth, and cunning. The strongest shinobi were thus named Kage for the shadows they embodied, able to move with the speed unknown to the ordinary, always seen yet never seen, never caught like what they were named after. Of course, these Kage, for their skills, were still human. And humans are not a part of the realm of shadows. They do not know what hides in the darkness that forever tags their feet. The same cannot be said for demons. Unlike these human killers, the demons are the ones who are truly part of the shadows, truly incapable of sympathy as they kill. It is what they are, and they are powerful such that none on earth can tell them nay. What shinobi often forget when facing such demons, is that somewhere, somehow, there will always be those who terrifies these demons. And they, whoever they are, should be feared more than the demons, the biju. Because demons can be understood, but the ones commanding them cannot. He is said to be one of light and darkness, of day and night, the one with two shadows. Those who plays games with the fates of men. Mo Hitori no Boku, the other me. The one known as Yami no Yugi, lit. Yugi of the Darkness. Yu-Gi-Oh! Lit. King of Games. One half of the pharaoh at Temu, and a whole lot of titles and names accumulated over the centuries that mainly boiled down to Yami, resisted the urge to wince. He knew this one. It was going to be followed by the dreaded question. Is that supposed to happen? The light to his darkness, Yugi to his the other half of his soul and co-holder of the title of Pharaoh at Temu, one Yugi Muto, sounded vaguely sick. Okay, maybe not the dreaded question, but it was close. For, there was only one person who would make that awful sickening squish sound. Civility, civility. He mentally chanted. Bakura, he stated, deceptively calm. I remember that we are here to retrieve escaped demons. While this is also an opportunity to explore the culture of these hidden shinobi, I do believe that cutting pieces off with a meat grinder does not further our cause. Although he would privately admit that was cool, and he would keep it in mind when he started up on the punishment he would dish out upon his partner's first breakup. Not that he would ever get a girlfriend, over his dead, cold and ground to dust bones. The Thief King scowled further, you're no fun. The Thief King's other half, one Bakura Ryu, looked vaguely squeamish. If it helps, I do believe that cutting his fingers off was justified, Yami offered consolingly. It was after much trial and error and close shaves during the Great Chicago event, which was so epic that we cannot speak of it, when the three of them had pulled off the Jesus Christ, only without their mortal remains around, he mentally celebrated. Take that. Ancient magic triumphs again. That he and the tomb robber agreed on a fragile, holy and explosive truce. It was 6 months later during their mutual problem that they realized that in the end, it was their mortal opponent who could ever understand what being a Yami and a Shadow Lord meant. Well, the tombkeeper, Malik, knew as well, but then somehow he whisked his good half, Merrick, to Hawaii, and from the few postcards the quartet had received so far, was on permanent hiatus somewhere with Shadow Realm transport. There were several honeymoon jokes being exchanged, half of which were only remotely amusing. It was also thus that they finally found out via Black Magician and Dark Necrophia respectively that as Shadow Lords ruled the Shadow Realm, and that by pulling off the Christ-level miracle and coming back as such, the three pairs had inadvertently bound themselves to the shadows permanently for literally forever. The concept of an end did not make itself known to the darkness which had been around since only God knows. Not that he was complaining, since he and his Aibo got to be together once more, but now he had to watch out for pedophiles. And now there were escaping demons tracing back all the way to the Renaissance, and he had to wonder what was the purpose of science if people were still stupid enough to summon without watching the wording, and now 9 demons were loose in a land full of shinobi, and somehow the white-haired Hikari Yami pair tagged along as well. The 3 co-rulers leaving the Shadow Realm's affairs to their competent prime ministers who had after all been doing this for 3 millennia, and running after the demons, or running somewhere, in the case of Malik and his Hikari, Merrick. We're approaching another country, so you might want to get the blood off before other shinobi sees that, he stated matter of fact, running fingers through his hair. While shadow magic was still extremely impressive, the temptation of bloodshed was present tenfold without a senin item, and it was so easy to fall to it and kill, say, a whole palace who tried to separate you and your light. It was thus for this sole purpose that he and Bakura had mutually agreed, gasp, horror, shocked, that the lights would have 2 shadow monster bodyguards each, and a truce that would hold until they reached safe surroundings. Safe defined as outside shinobi influence, which would not be for a long time. They had wanted 4 monsters, but then realized that too many monsters drew too much attention. In a not-so-subtle jab at the land they were currently traveling, he and Bakura had chosen Ninja Master Sasuke and White Ninja respectively as primary bodyguards. Ryu had vetoed Fushi-Bushi by pointing out how people would notice arrows sticking out, and Bakura had grudgingly accepted, since Ryu being kidnapped meant no Hikari around to stop him in more bloodthirsty moments, which could mean a repeat of Kuru Eruna, Thief King Bakura style. That and he'd mellowed out. Somewhat. They could only hope. In a more pragmatic approach, Bakura had willed Wall Shadow into being and set it as a scout. Acknowledging the thief's use of tactics, Yami had willed Wolf into being, Silver Fang currently working in the BEWD Corporation and thus out of commission. Yes, the Shadow Realm had its own conglomerate, run by said Blue Eyes White Dragon, and a Starbucks. The Yamis fully agreed to blame Kaiba, and ignored simple puzzles such as how the BEWD managed to do the paperwork without hands to write. The popular hypothesis was that the BEWD burst stream of destruction all of it. So, it was the 2 white-haired ones who made up the entity called the Thief King, the 2 punk-haired who made up the Pharaoh, a bandaged ninja with a green overall and a ninja dressed completely in white walking beside a wolf slowly trotting towards a direction resembling the approach of civilization. We should have dragged that ninja along, Bakura grumbled, bored as they approached a valley with statues of ninja standing guard on either side, time and the elements having worn the stone down such that the only distinct symbol was an odd spiral shape that looked like a bird's head. More fun to torture, if not coerce directions from. And now we're lost. While I might agree with you, considering that he tried to kill us, dragging a ninja from another country across borders constitutes an international incident, Bakura. Unless the thing back in the Star Country wasn't bad enough, Yami mildly stated. Suffice it to say that it was lucky for them it was an unpopular and unimportant daimyo who got killed when the 2 Yamis, for lack of better terms, sacked the palace. As the 2 Yamis engaged in their verbal sparring, a sudden flurry of chirps sounded, close by. Yami, Yugi murmured, squinting at the trees. There aren't any birds around. The 2 froze immediately as they felt the presence of one of 9 they had been seeking close by. Sasuke, Cabe, they growled in unison. Guard formation. Naruto. Sasuke. It was a clash of shinobi at the Valley of the End as the 2 duked it out. Uchiha Sasuke in fully unsealed cursed glory, lightning dancing and chirping in his hands. Uzumaki Naruto glowing a light with red chakra, a ball of spinning force in his own. The resulting clash would have destroyed the bridge and ended the battle decisively if not for the sudden feeling of dread and killing intent that washed over them. The jarring atmosphere snapped both of them from the battle haze as both shinobi flipped in midair and landed on the heads of opposing statues. My apologies, one of the 6 standing on the rope bridge that connected the valley to the other countries stated. Now that he noticed them, Naruto noted that in these people, 2 of them had spiky hair of red and black with blonde bangs and even the same black cargo pants and white shirt, the taller one of them being the speaker. 2 had shaggy long white hair and the same jeans and shirt. One was dressed completely in white and the other was dressed in bandages and a green overall. The last 2 were clearly shinobi standing in a guard formation, although Naruto found it odd that they had no hite-8. Even missing nin kept theirs on when they left their villages. The lack was just weird, as was the killing intent radiating from the speaker. The evil-looking white-haired one. Naruto oddly thought of Anko from the Chunin exam at this moment and found that Anko just didn't match up to this one and the 2 odd shinobi. But could you please conclude your fight in a less destructive manner or wait? The bridge is almost destroyed with your techniques. Ah, sorry, Naruto sheepishly smiled back. Sasuke here tried to defect and go to some evil snake dude. Dobi, the Uchiha snarled, lightning still dancing. I am leaving, and not you, nor any of you, will stop me. So move on, or I will move you. Oddly, the killing intent intensified, and Naruto himself could barely breathe as the QB chakra flickered about him as the fox felt it. And was that fear from the QB? Grandmaster, the speaker snarled. The bandaged shinobi moved into a battle stance, knives in each hand at the ready. Take him alive. Naruto had seen fancy aerodynamics before, but he had to admit that some of the moves the bandaged ninja pulled off couldn't be done by a human. Even cursed seal Sasuke looked like he was having a hard time just dodging this, Grandmaster. Naruto turned his head to see the speaker study him with crimson eyes that oddly made him think of fresh blood and the QB. Brat, we've had our difficulties, the demon fox was babbling in his mindscape, sounding oddly panicked, but I swear I'll pay you all my rent if you just hide me from that guy. I want a word with you when we get to something resembling civilization, QB no Yonku, the speaker snapped, to the shock of both shinobi present. You might be in a human body now, but that would not stop me. Shit. He figured it out. The fox lamented. Somehow, the fox's bravado had run cold, and part of him had marveled at how even the great QB seemed so afraid of this slight man. It was cool, in a scary kind of way, but still cool. Yu-Gi-Oh! It would be a lot of trouble to take both with us on the way, the nicer looking of the white-haired ones piped up. The one addressed as Yu-Gi-Oh! Nodded as he reached into his pocket. Naruto and the exhausting Sasuke twitched. Sasuke moving too late and getting stuck in a hold by the bandaged ninja, who promptly pulled both arms out of their sockets and effectively immobilized Sasuke's arms. Naruto fought to stifle the wince as Sasuke screamed in pain, the curse seal effects diminishing as bandaged ninja ripped the wings off. Curse seal level 2, remember? And Sasuke finally fell unconscious. From a pocket, the man drew a long, brown card. Ninja Grandmaster, he called, holding it up. Ninja Art of Transformation. Naruto had to fight the resulting drop jaw as the card glowed a golden light, along with the bandaged ninja, and grew and morphed into a giant green falcon, different from the ones he had seen in the Konoha post office in not only size, but the light that seemed to shine from it as the green falcon lifted its head and cried out a low, musical note. God Bird Samorg, Yu-Gi-Oh! Addressed it. Send them back. The number one unpredictable ninja had only one thought in his head as he and the oddly quiet, and bleeding and unconscious Sasuke were buffeted by strong winds from the bird's wings all the way back to the village. WTF. Nara Shikamaru could barely blink as what should have been a normal by-the-side reconnaissance mission escalated to his shadow-growing claws. He knew that there were ways to control shadows. Heck, he was a shadow jutsu wielder himself, but then, shadows didn't just grow claws and grab your throat and throw you down from what must have been 5 stories up. As he regained his balance and landed on his feet, the tip of a scarily sharp knife rested itself on his carotid artery and he froze, already knowing that the knife holder would cut his throat before any jutsu could be done. He looked up into russet eyes the color of old blood, and for some reason, a part of him proved that self-preservation was still well and alive and kicking him to run, hide, flee. Sorry, the nicer, punk-haired one standing behind the one holding the knife, dressed in a white cotton polo tee and black shorts with black and white sneakers, sheepishly stated. Shikamaru looked into violet eyes and immediately detected his apprehension. We're lost. Do you know how to get to Konohagakure no Sato? If his hands weren't held down by fear of the knife slitting his throat, he would have face-palmed. The scary person with white hair still holding the dagger, a kunai, he noted, sharpened to something he had never seen before in Konoha that Tenten would probably kill or possibly severely maim to study. To his and Temari's throats seemed to have spotted his expression, because soon the Nara Saiyan could feel bleeding. On either side, Kiba and Akamaru froze, as if uncertain of how to act. Nearby, Neji, Lee, Kankuro and even Gaara were slumped over the back of a huge golem-like thing. Elemental hero Clayman. While a muscular samurai with several sharp and pointy weapons sticking out of his pack, armed samurai Benkei, held the bodies of what must be all 5 of the sound ninjas' corpses. The scariest thing was that Sabaku no Gaara was asleep, and Shukaku hadn't acted up yet. Well, the actual scariest thing was the killing intent the 2 evil twins seemed to generate that made him want to crawl into a hole and hide. Training took over upon panic. No visa? You'll have to go by the main portal. The Chunin replied, burying panic under his training by reflex. We're shinobi of Konoha, we can send a message ahead to warn the guards. Mr. Muto. Muto Yugi Dezu. The vertically challenged one replied. That's my twin, over there. The scary-looking white-haired one is Bakura, and his nicer twin hiding behind is Bakura Ryu. We're here to. He shot a look at his twin, who was currently staring at them with a disconcerting crimson gaze. Years on a team with an Uchiha fangirl had schooled Shikamaru of all the signs to look out for in a Bishonen, however unwilling. Somehow, he knew that if the village fangirls ever saw his scary twin in the loose white cotton-collared shirt and flak jacket with khaki shorts and sandals he had on right now, the Uchiha would be immediately replaced. The twin shrugged in reply. Retrieve lost property. Your friends here. He indicated to the golem's load, need immediate medical assistance. I have already sent 2 shinobi ahead, so we would need to return. My apologies for holding you at knife point, but me and my associates. Here Bakura shot a dirty look at him, have bad experience with shinobi. Shikamaru blinked. And blinked. It takes 2 days to Konohagakure on foot. He sloly stated. Unless we can fly, we've to move immediately and hope for the best. In that case, the twin cocked his head to the side. His jaw and Temari's dropped at the sight. We would have to fly. Would you care to tag along? It does seem that the 2 of you require medical assistance as well, and we would require navigation to Konoha. We are quite lost, after all. The sun was setting over Konohagakure when Samorg finally landed. Their entire group became the first in history to have the head of Anbu torture and interrogation greet them at the portal as the green bird descended before the great gates. True to his reputation, Morino Ibiki did little more than blink and raise near non-existent eyebrows as his eyes widened. Name and rank, he stated brusquely. The 4 looked at each other before turning their gaze on Ibiki. Bakura growled, "We're busy." "My Hikari is tired from the long travel," Yami snapped. "If you will not move, I will move you." Crimson eyes bored holes into the head of Anbu torture and interrogation, promising a bloody and slow vengeance that the head of Anbu and I mentally applauded and promised to himself to learn as soon as possible. "Ibiki-sensei, we need medics quickly," Shikamaru called as he descended upon the forest floor from the bird's back, the sand kunoichi warily following him. The golem followed after, carefully lowering its load onto soft ground before disappearing in a whisper of purple mist. The bird followed soon after with a musical cry, as did the armed warrior, leaving a pile of corpses outside the village gates. The gate guards immediately moved to dispose of the bodies. "Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke are?" the torture specialist inquired. "Ah," Yami sighed. "Bakura, you were right. Samorg is getting slow." "Told ya," Bakura happily grumbled. "Now, they should be coming." There were 2 rapidly growing spots of shadow growing in the air as the shinobi looked up to see Naruto and Sasuke approaching at terminal velocity from the sky. A black blur leapt from the tree cover and made immediately for them, jumping into the air and neatly catching both boys just 10 meters from the ground. As the trio landed, it was revealed to be a Hitaki Kakashi who had obviously seen better days. A few moments later, the Pug Pakun arrived at his feet, took one look at the newcomers, and his eyes abruptly widened. "Never," Kakashi panted, Sharingan eye active, again. "Nice catch," Bakura snarked as he and Ryu made their way into the village, 2 medic nin relieving Kakashi of his burden. "Oi, Yu-Gi-Oh! Me and Ryu are going to the inn first. You want me to take the pipsqueak along?" "Don't hold out on my account, Bakura." Yami shook his head. "After all, there was a reason we booked 2 rooms on opposite ends of the inn." "You did? Oh, thanks," Bakura absent-mindedly replied, pushing a suddenly blushing Ryu into the village, ignoring the shinobi's warning motions and moving for weapons. "You handle customs, I suck at diplomacy." "Glad to see you hold so much trust in me," Yami replied, not missing a beat as he shot a warning glare that made the guards reconsider their choices. "Remember, no funny business. Unless you're outnumbered, or if the opponent goes first, or if both of you are threatened. This is a hidden village." Yeah, I know." Bakura waved it off, lugging 2 heavy backpacks along. "Stop nagging," he added as Ryu took the smaller of the 2 packs, before turning around and dismissing the monsters, including the 2 ninja bodyguards. Several shinobi jaws hit the ground as the monsters disappeared in a swirl of purple mist. "Remember the last hidden village? Now, go." Yami shot back, before turning to the 2 shinobi guarding the gates. "So, where were we?" "Oh yes, customs. Hikari, are you?" Yami, I'm fine, the seemingly shorter twin to Yami replied. Let us settle our passports and deal with the situation tomorrow. Anyo. Ibiki-san? This way, the battle-hardened shinobi stated, turning on his heel. Kakashi, the Hoka guy wants you present at the hospital. It concerns Uzumaki Naruto. The silver-haired ninja nodded in reply, still silent as he watched the trio move off, the last words of Pakun before it left still echoing. Careful, Kakashi. Those two. They don't feel right, they emit too much killing intent. They don't smell right. It's like the monsters of the past. They smell like the Biju, only older and with much more blood. It's like the old legends the elders used to tell, the stories of the dangers of the ninja legends. Like monsters worse than the Biju could ever be. Suna de Ba-chan. Eat something other than ramen, shitty brat. The fifth Hoka guy. Slug Princess Suna de yelled at the newest patient. In the bed beside him slept Gaara, which on hindsight was scary, but she was counting her blessings anyway. Naruto had really dragged a now unconscious Sasuke back to Konoha, or more accurately they flew back, but it didn't matter anyway. Both were relatively safe now, until the next crisis. But, Ba-chan. Naruto whined. Hoka Gai-sama, Morino Ibiki greeted as he walked in. 4 travelers came to Konoha today, 2 of which are handling their passports at customs. The other 2 are currently checking into their rooms at the Konoha Onsen Inn. It was then that the 2 Anbu hidden behind Ibiki made itself known and handed her the approved documents. Tsunade privately wondered at their hair. A more colorful combination had not been found yet, or Naruto would be wearing it. As it were, Naruto was loud enough already. As it were, the 2 she was wondering about were escorted into the hospital room. Good afternoon, Hoka Gai-sama, the taller one spoke. I am Ya Yu-gi-oh, he amended as his partner discreetly elbowed him, and this is my partner, Muto Yugi. We came here to retrieve some lost property and somehow, we were redirected to you by the customs. Oh, you? Naruto exclaimed. Bastard, you told the huge green chicken which that bandaged ninja morphed into to send me back. I was blown back all the way by that huge chicken. It would help if you were to refrain from referring to the god bird Samorg as poultry, Yami coldly replied. After all, it is customary not to insult a 5-story tall bird, no matter how much it resembles its mundane cousins. Suna de tried not to chuckle at that mental imagery. Anyway, Yu-gi-oh continued, ignoring Naruto's progressively louder exclamations, we are here about that lost property. Your property concerns may be important, Suna de diplomatically began, but the village is currently recovering from a war. Oh, but this concerns the resident within that boy, Yugi piped up for the first time. Odd, but normally people don't get demons willingly sealed into them, do they? We are here, of course, Hoka Gai-sama, to discuss the recovery of the QB no Yonku. A pin dropping from across the village could be heard clearly in the silence that followed. What? Naruto managed to stutter. Like I said before, QB, I want a word with you. Yami snarled in Naruto's direction. I know that you can take a spectral form. Here, now. Not in a million years are you going to be dragging me back, the proud Biju muttered in Naruto's mindscape. He says no, the blonde relayed, aware that Yami was currently releasing killer intent that made even Orochimaru look about as threatening as Michael Jackson. Already the blonde could see Ibiki and Kakashi take 2 steps back, while Tsunade barely held her place. Either I come in, or you come out, Yami stated, matter of fact. A moment later, red chakra, painless but visible, seemed to flow from Naruto to form a fox's face, its red eyes gleaming with hate, floating over the hospital bed. The shinobi present except for Naruto took several steps back. You, it hissed. And hello, QB, Yu-gi-oh dryly replied. It took 600 years before anyone noticed your absence, and 400 years to locate the 9 of you, you know. No one asked, Yu-gi-oh, the fox avatar mockingly replied. And you wouldn't drag me out when the kid could be killed, right? There's no way to drag me back the shadows, Osama. You underestimate me, the crimson-eyed youth coldly answered, hands fisted at his sides. Perhaps you should remember that even if you leave, the shadows recognize their own. And they answer to only 6 people, one of them being me. That includes you. The fox avatar hissed, twisting into indistinct shapes, chakra writhing like indistinct mist as if the demon itself was in pain. Naruto's eyes screwed up as the fox's screams echoed through his mind. The remaining shinobi stood frozen, unsure of how to act. As the shrieks died off into echoes, the chakra regained the shape of a terribly exhausted fox. "Therefore, I brought this," Yami airily stated as his hand pulled out a brown-backed playing card slowly from his pocket. The shinobi present were actually rather surprised to see the fox's face blanch in apparent horror. It was like seeing a typhoon with a phobia of mice. "Yes, I will drag you out of the prison the humans put you in if necessary, and show you the shadows' prisons. I'm told that it's quite the enlightening experience." "No, no brat, stop him," the fox howled as the tricolored hair man advanced forward. Naruto looked at the brown-backed card with some trepidation, hardly daring to imagine how a square of cardboard was supposed to scare the QB into whimpering. Wah. No, no, no. Golden chakra began leaking from the nearby Gaara to form a miniature tanuki face. "Shit, stupid seal. Can't escape." "Two of you in the same room," Yami skeptically stated, pausing in his tracks. "Ichibi, you never were on good terms with QB. What changed your mind?" "Bloody bastard, I'd rather spend eternity with this kid than go back. I get to kill people here." Ichibi no Shukaku howled loud enough to crack the glass. "And I'm powerful. No one gives a damn if another monster's missing back home, but here, we're the next best thing to God. I see that the king of all animals would have to re-educate you when we send you back," Yami dryly replied. "2 in 1 day. Of course, the details of your release would have to be discussed with them first. I imagine it would be quite rude to unwillingly subject shinobi to an extraction." He trailed off as his eyes widened. "Oh, QB. Figured it out, haven't you?" The fox was smug once more. Oh yeah. The tanuki sang. "One more word from you, raccoon, and Behemoth himself would re-educate you," Yami threatened. "Sleep, both of you. Ichibi, if you try to eat your host, I will deal with you. And then I'll let Gazaru deal with you. Then Behemoth will deal with you." The fox and the tanuki visibly gulped as gold and red chakra faded. That was. Tsunade found her voice. The common interaction between Biju and their masters. "Idiot human who sealed the QB," Yami muttered, mostly to himself before turning on Tsunade. Cold crimson met brown. "Like I said, I am here to recover my property. I am willing to compensate the village for any losses incurred during his reign of terror. What is important is that he returns with me to serve his sentence." "Come with me," Tsunade brusquely replied as she led them out against Naruto's insistent yells and through the hospital's hallways. "What relationship do you share with the Biju?" the Hokage started conversationally. "His boss reports to another boss, who reports to another boss, who reports to me," Yami shrugged, as if being the overall master of the Biju was a minor thing. "The same relationship goes for all the tailed beasts, as you call them, that seems to have escaped from me." There was a stunned silence as they absorbed the implications of the last few sentences. However, he blithely continued. "We appear to have misplaced several demons and hence we have been busy searching and retrieving them." There was a subtle twitch about the Hokage as they walked towards a nondescript door set in the wall, Mitarashi Anko standing guard. The almost twins stopped in surprise before Anko. "Cursed," Yugi whispered. "Oh, my." The 3 Junin and 1 Hokage froze where they stood. "Yeah," Anko shrugged, playing the cool facade. "It's a long story. There's a seal on it, though, so it's mostly fine." "The seal weakens with each passing day," the taller one whispered. "And as it does, your will erodes, and soon you become nothing more than a power-hungry puppet. We could do something about that." Anko snorted. "It's a cursed seal placed by the snake Sanin Orochimaru himself. Even the Sandaime couldn't do it. And I wouldn't let a couple of brats near me anyway." The shorter one turned visibly widening eyes at the female Junin. "It's on her neck, Mohitori no Boku." "It would take an active will to do so anyway," the other replied as they followed Tsunade into the room towards the unconscious Sasuke. "The thing is, right now, since the seal on the boy is threatening his life and sanity, I can remove it and not feel guilty afterwards." "You can remove cursed seals?" Tsunade exclaimed, as did the 3 others standing outside. The taller moved beside Sasuke, turning the brunette's head with his hand until the cursed seal was revealed in all its glory. He pulled out the same card and muttered a few words over it. making a few hand signs that were unintelligible to the shinobi present, before reaching into the card and pulling through it. Something suspiciously high-pitched and a lot like Michael Jackson's howls screamed as Sasuke thrashed around a bit, but calmed before the shinobi could react. Calmly, the taller one held up the card, which contained a picture of the curse mark, laid out flat. And not a single mark was on the Uchiha's skin. So, what about that offer? Yugi now asked a stunned Anko. The Junin were busy picking up their jaws from the floor, while Tsunade seemed to have acquired a case of the widening eyes. Tsunade recovered soon enough, turning her towards the door. Hitaki, Morino, follow me. Mitarashi, thorough checkup on Sasuke. That went well, Yugi commented as he leant against the window pane, watching Anko perform jutsu that left him wondering about the strange ways of shinobi. Oh yes, Yami replied, voice as dry as the desert sun. As awkward the moment was, it seems like they comprehend what our presence means. Huh? Yugi inquired, eyes wide as they took in the village sights in the light of the dying sun, the Hokage monument above all, from their view from the hospital window. The Ichibi mentioned that they were the closest thing to God, Yami elaborated. Having shown ourselves capable of scaring the most powerful thing they have ever comprehended, to a shinobi, we have become the biggest threat. Now, if they had any sense, they would try to pull us to their side. That or kill us. Yugi wisely pointed out. That too, Yami agreed, an unholy smirk blooming on his face. Then again, what do you say to some divine intervention? I imagine Osiris is getting hungry. That was terrifying, Kakashi lightly commented. Terrifying indeed. A cursed seal that even the professor, Sandame, couldn't remove, fallen apart into a card in the hands of a teenager. Unexpected, Ibiki agreed. That is what we want on our side, Tsunade commented, and I have the feeling that that's not their only power. Morino, you said they summoned a giant green falcon? And they flew on it? Yes, Hokage-sama. Ibiki reported. Even Kakashi looked faintly stunned. And apparently there were more. Reports of more strange creatures from the Genin team they came back with. Ibiki chose his words carefully. Naruto said that they were accompanied with 2 shinobi with no Hite aid in sight and extremely dangerous skill, for one of them to have taken down Uchiha Sasuke quite easily even with the cursed seal fully active, if he is to be believed. The ninja then transformed to a great big green chicken, as described by Uzumaki Naruto, and blew the pair of them back with a single flap of its wings. My belief is that he was referring to the giant green falcon they flew here and later dismissed as a summons, along with a golem and an armed warrior. A human summons is most unusual, Tsunade note, curious. My ninja dogs reported that they smelled like the biju, except older. Kakashi reported next. They don't smell right, they don't feel right, they emit too much killing intent for any normal human being, and even my Kachiyose seemed afraid of them. Pakun wouldn't even stay within earshot of them. Watch. A Kachiyose later, Pakun was shivering and cowering in Kakashi's arms, scrabbling to get away from the 2 almost lookalikes who were looking at the Hokage monument in awe, oblivious to the ninja contingent. Care to explain? Kakashi stated as the pug tried to burrow further into his jacket. Can't, summoning contract, privacy clause, along with oh gods let go. Pakun yelped quietly. Tsunade scratched her brow. Odd. She did her own Kachiyose and soon a slug appeared. Yes, Tsunade-sama. The slug's melodious voice whispered. Tsunade pointed to the 2 oblivious near lookalikes. Do you recognize them? The slug looked before turning back to the Hokage, its voice reverent. They are masters of the summoning. Lords of a realm of demons. Young ninja animals are taught to run and hide in the presence of these shadow lords. If the biju were monsters, then they would be the ones who control the monsters, the ones who the monsters ultimately answer to. The slug then turned nervous. Even the gods' power are at their command. And they want their property, the QB, back, Tsunade finished, face-palming. Damn you, Sarutobi-sensei. Several Enbu flashed into view. Hokage-sama, they greeted, hands on weapons. There was an abrupt yelp, before the crackle of lightning, and another Enbu flew out of the open door. Tsunade barged in to be greeted by the sight of a stunned Kunoichi Junin and the 2 lookalikes, the taller of them holding a slightly smoking card. Evidently Yu-Gi-Oh didn't like their reaction, for he soon drew another card. Explain, he stated to Tsunade, brown-backed card threateningly held out. It was funny how a playing card could suddenly seem so ominous, even to the legendary gambling sucker. A sound incursion team has been sighted heading towards Konohagakure, one of the Anbu reported. They're heading from the west as we speak. Tsunade nodded. Intercept the forces, arrest them. I see. It looks like my property problem can wait until daylight, Yu-Gi-Oh observed, still holding on to the card. Hokage-sama, I will leave you to your duties, then. Uzumaki Naruto is a shinobi of the leaf, Tsunade retorted as the two turned to leave. If you want him, it will happen when hell freezes over. Yu-Gi-Oh stopped, raising an eyebrow. Hell is frozen in some parts, so I do guess it counts. Furthermore, remember that Naruto and the QB, several Anbu froze at the open defiance of the law, are separate entities. My property pertains to the QB alone. It does not extend to the vessel. The seal. Tsunade faltered upon recalling how easily the curse seal had been picked apart. Tricky, Yu-Gi-Oh admitted. I do not often meet things that require the sacrifice of a life to seal. Nevertheless, it appears that right now you are busy with a possible infiltration attempt and hence we will resolve this after your crisis. Assuming that it does succeed. He then turned to leave. I am no shinobi. I cannot be expected to understand what you would do now, so I will wait, and I will hope, and perhaps, if my interests are threatened, I will help. Good day, Hokage-sama. I will arrange for an appointment on the morrow, we are weary. Aibo, let's go. Wait. What about the shinobi lady? Yugi insisted. We can at least remove the seal first. Whatever we do without permission must represent a threat to their sanity or life, Aibo. We must wait. No, Anko spoke loudly, storming up to him. How fast can you remove it? He blinked. It depends, really, but not now. We have only just arrived and must recuperate. My apologies. How long? Anko insisted, face set. A kunai was twirling in her hand, as if she was itching to throw it. We'll have to make an appointment, Yu-Gi-Oh politely replied, unafraid, leading his Aibo by the hand. Tomorrow at 8 am. We'll be making an appointment for an audience with the Hokage. Perhaps we will see you at 11? The QB is under surveillance, Yugi told the Bakuri later in their private quarters, having convened at the punk-haired pair's rooms. Yami's recovering from a headache now, though. Ryu nodded in reply. We can utilize the Biju as bargaining chips, Bakura interrupted, while we get away. If there's anything we learned while traveling, it's that shinobi always look for more power. They don't know that we have more than what they themselves will ever comprehend. True, Yugi nodded. We must get the Ichibi and the QB before we leave Konoha anyway. From there, we can head towards the other countries and find more of them. Aibo. Yami no Yugi groaned as he stepped into the room. There are shinobi watching us. Well, what's the plan, Para? Bakura asked. The look on his face was grim. Nothing. Yami. Yugi began. We are exhausted from traveling. There is hardly anything we can do now. The hospital is likely under security and our property is not likely to abscond anywhere. He explained. Therefore there is no need to do anything. Should the shinobi move against us, traps will be activated and reduce them. Is that really necessary? A voice came from the shadows of their room. Tsunade and her retinue were not truly prepared for their shadows to erupt and hold them in place. Hokage-sama, the four greeted coldly as one. You are extremely lucky that I have set the traps to capture and not kill, Yami added coldly, eyes blazing. What are your intentions towards Konoha? She asked. You, she indicated at Yami, have confessed yourself after the Biju. Are you with Akatsuki? What are your intentions? Whatever this Akatsuki is, we are not allied to it. Yu-Gi-Oh replied, frowning. We are here for our property, the QB. We will leave upon recovering our property. Tsunade sighed, discarding the raging act. I see. I suppose then that we should conduct negotiations to discuss the trade tomorrow. Agreed, Yu-Gi-Oh said without hesitation. Good night, Hokage-sama, and please take all your guards, your eyes and your ears with you. My friend here is extremely protective of his privacy and bloodthirsty in his methods of securing it. I fear that he might severely maim any stranger he finds rifling through his stuff right now. Bakura smirked as an unholy yelp came from the rooms across the inn. The rooms of the Bakuri. It was the kind of smirk that sent shivers down the spines of some of the hardened warriors present. Tsunade's skin itself crawled. This is a demon, she realized. No, not right. These are the ones the demons answer to. Uchiha Sasuke woke up, free, as the sun broke through to color the sky. Pale fingers brushed the part where the curse mark once resided. Having remembered everything after having just awoken, contemplated his actions once more in the quiet half-night the hospital afforded. He felt weaker, more tired, but finally free. Free of the pain of the seal, free from the constant struggle. And the one who had removed it. What power! He was broken out of the constant reverie by the door opening. His head turned to see the loudest, most unpredictable ninja in Konoha with bandages, a foot cast, and using crutches. Yo, Sasuke, the loud mouth greeted. Sasuke replied. Silence reigned. We got blown back by a huge green chicken, Naruto commented. That was interesting. Beaten by poultry, the two of us, Sasuke replied. We'll never live it down. Hell yeah. More silence. It was still giant and badass. Naruto continued. And the bandaged ninja who turned into the chicken, he was really fast. And strong, Sasuke added, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. Yeah, Naruto enthusiastically continued. The weird guy with the crazy hair's scary. He's in Konoha, you know, with his twin and another pair of twins. Yeah, he was here. Before that, he visited me in Ga. QB's scared of him. Which put things into perspective. The guy with weird hair trumped Orochimaru on any day. Then he left, and I sneaked after Ba-chan and the two weird guys. They're like twins, you know, except one's nicer and the other's scarier, and they said that Crazy Anko had a seal as well and they removed your seal. Scary Twin also said that the seal controls your mind. Kakashi-sensei told me. Black eyes widened. Yeah, and then he did this weird thing and the next thing Kakashi-sensei no. The seal's in a card and you're... Naruto scratched his head. Here. Silence descended once more. I'm not going to say anything. Naruto continued. The seal put something on you, and it's obviously not you, so there's nothing, really. And then you're here, and I beat you up, and well. Dobi. Shut up. Hey, thanks. You're welcome. Kakashi stood by the door to Sasuke's room, deliberating. He had gone to see Naruto, only to be informed by a half-asleep Gaara that Naruto had gone to see his teammate. Judging from how Gaara held onto the pillow, Kakashi had privately thought the sand shinobi about to abscond with it and left the room, leaving him with his love affair with the hospital bed. It was endearing. It was also creepy beyond all reason. It was also disconcerting how Gaara had warned him. Yu-Gi-Oh will come for the Biju soon. They might rebel and tear Naruto apart to escape. Protect him. Sighing, Kakashi recalled last night, when he had visited the four as part of the Hokage entourage. Flashback. The shinobi found themselves tangled, held by their own shadows as the four turned to them. Claws wormed their way out of the umbra and soon held themselves close to jugulars, veins and arteries. Then came the extremely awkward conversation, and the thinly veiled threat. A stunned silence descended upon the room. Be that as it may, Yu-Gi-Oh continued. We are clearly in need of information. If you may provide a map of the shinobi continent as well as information on the QB's seal, we would be extremely grateful. The claw on his jugular seemed to tighten in emphasis. We can provide a map, Tsunade agreed. But there are very real threats to anyone connected to the Biju now, and while we do not dispute your ability, it seems that you have people who require protecting. Yu-Gi-Oh seemed to frown, his eyes darting to Ryu and Yugi, followed by Bakura. There seemed to be a mental conversation going on between them for a few moments before Yu-Gi-Oh's eyes snapped back to Tsunade. If we must, we will take the QB vessel and the one he was fighting at the Valley of the End. Yu-Gi-Oh decided. The QB vessel is an obvious choice, the other because of the mental trauma associated with the cursed seal. Mental trauma. Tsunade's eyes widened. That thing was specifically created to interfere with the body's natural systems, and corrupt the mind with power, Yu-Gi-Oh elaborated. It is essentially a mental drug used to place a mind under another's control, impair one's judgment, force one to desire the feeling of power, enhance negative thoughts. A form of mind control, if you will. I would require more information, but I can surmise that he is under puberty. If so, then he would have been more susceptible to such influence. Minds at that stage are always easy to mold. So flexible. Kakashi felt vaguely sickened. Tsunade looked openly so. Hence he would require advanced help to recover, Yu-Gi-Oh finished. Their teammates would also have to follow, Tsunade warned. If they must, Yu-Gi-Oh shrugged. That is, if they can cope with the threats faced during our travels. They are shinobi, they are more than capable, Tsunade hotly replied. Yu-Gi-Oh's expression was blank and cold, crimson eyes piercing like the Sharingan, except that Kakashi had never before felt such fear associated with the red eyes. I mean demons. Hokage-sama. Monsters much like the god bird Samorg in my employ. Warriors of skill beyond compare. Beasts of equal if not higher standing than the QB. He then leaned closer and in a whisper, wistfully confessed. I hope that you do manage to sleep well tonight, Hokage-sama. There are after all, several eyes watching in the darkness. Flashback and recalling those eyes, Kakashi could not help but shudder. The last time he had looked into any such eyes was in his own eye, in Sasuke and in the eyes of Uchiha Itachi. Such intensity even put the Sharingan to shame. And this was one with command over that monster. Sasuke. The loudmouth ninja stated. Loudly. Stop yelling, Dobi. Thesis hospital in the early morning. Oh. Can you shut up? Sasuke's voice was exasperated, but affectionate, Kakashi noted as he opened the door without knocking. It was as if whatever good nature he had lost with the curse seal was recovered upon its removal. Orochimaru had a lot to answer for, he silently swore to himself. Yo, he greeted his students. Naruto, you know the Hokage said mandatory bed rest. But, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke, you're cleared of any charges since Yu-Gi-Oh stated that you were under mind control, Kakashi continued, ignoring Naruto by dint of long practice. Sasuke twitched. Visibly. Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, the guy who summoned the green chicken who blew us back. Naruto's fist made contact with his palm, the metaphorical light bulb lighting up. Oh yeah, I gotta go after the bastard, dunno what he did to Gaara. Now Gaara's asleep and it's all creepy. Green chicken? Sasuke asked the sensei, ignoring Naruto's rant. More like a 5-story tall green falcon. Kakashi replied. The seal's removed, by the way. I know. Sasuke's fingers automatically flew to his neck. I want to thank them. You might not want to after I tell you our next mission, Kakashi lightheartedly commented, but we'll have to wait. The door flew open again as Sakura barreled in. Naruto. Sasuke-kun. Sakura-chan. I did it. Naruto flashed his biggest grin. Liar, Sasuke commented. We were blown back by the green chicken, remember? It was 5 stories tall. Naruto protested. Come on, even I can't take on a huge green chicken. Don't ever do it again, Sakura cried, bopping the two on the head. I was worried about both of you. That hurt, both of them commented. Despite himself, despite the threat now in their village, Kakashi smiled to himself as the sun rose in the sky outside. Their Team 7 was back. All was well, for now. Bodyguards, Bakura stated flatly, legs splashing in hot water, wincing as the morning chill in his feet met the hot water. You want us to take on shinobi bodyguards? People who would kill us as easily as help us. We require knowledge of how this world works, Yami explained, already deeply immersed in the onsen. Beside him, Yugi soaked, daydreaming. It makes sense to take them up on their offer. Besides, we can gloss over a few details and throw them to the shadows if they try. Furthermore, we flirt with danger with you around already. What's a team of ninja compared to Tozoku Bakura? Flattery gets you nowhere, hurrah. A smirking Bakura shot back as his eyes wandered to a Ryu already blushing from prolonged contact with the hot springs. And possibly extended contact with Bakura. But I see your point. And they can guard our Hikaris too. The black-haired one was interesting, wasn't he? An Avenger, Yami reiterated, with the red eyes and a dark aura. Offshoots of yours? Not likely. I never had children. Look to different horizons, remember? Seth, maybe? Never heard. Bakura purred, finally descending into the water with a relieved sigh. I heard women swear up and down the Nile about you, but not about that stick up his ass. Yami scowled. says the master of the 9-day orgy. Now it was Bakura's turn to scowl. Now how did you? Medjai. Figures. Bloody eyes and ears everywhere. Bakura muttered, shaking his head. You see that pervert near the women's hot springs? Chronic case if there ever was one. I see him. In a ninja village. Yami sounded almost amused as the pair watched the white-haired pervert peeping near the women's baths. Continuing on, he's not one of yours? Not bloody likely, Bakura scoffed, watching the pervert scarper from several angry kunoichi. Being the thief king wasn't a viable occupation to have kids around. Apprentices maybe, but not kids. The blonde container was also interesting. Yugi interrupted the conversation. Don't you think so, Mo Hitori no Boku? The Yu-Gi-Oh turned rapidly softening eyes towards his light, much to the amusement of the other Hikari-Yami pair, who were often much amused by Yugi's general antics, non-Yami or otherwise. It was like a soap opera, only that you just couldn't believe anyone could be that whipped. Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh could hold his own against almost any will. Save that of his light. The white-haired pair firmly believed that if Yugi asked the pharaoh to incinerate the world, the only question would be, to what extent? It was a scary thought, seeing as Bakura was a Yami as well. Intriguing perhaps, Yami agreed. But it is the seal that I am more worried about. Sacrifice seals come with Shinigami, he shuddered slightly. And our relations with death aren't exactly stellar at the moment, are they? Yugi sighed. What would this mean? Research, Yami supplied. And possible espionage. I will find a copy of the seal and send it to the Castle of Dark Illusions and the Royal Magical Library. Failing that, the Magical Citadel of Endymion. If all else fails, then perhaps more actions will be undertaken. That means me, huh? Bakura sighed. I'm still not acting the hero, though. We know, the three replied. Bodyguards? Sasuke stated skeptically. We're supposed to be bodyguards to them. Why? And for that matter, why us? Naruto because of his problem, Kakashi lamely explained. Sakura had already informed them of Tsunade's accepting her as an apprentice, and thus it was just their three-man team. We know, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto dully told the copy ninja. Sasuke Teme saw it. Because he contains the QB. Sasuke stated. I can see why, but why me? Kakashi was pleased at how his student emphasized the QB, as if the two were different entities. Indeed, Orochimaru had a lot to answer for. Because of the mental trauma. I can assure you that I don't feel homicidal at all, Sasuke dryly replied. Kakashi, there's more to this mission, right? True, Ba-chan wouldn't send mere genin on this mission, Naruto slowly stated, comprehension finally dawning. It's a B rank, maybe even a rank, or S rank, if we face other shinobi, right, Kakashi-sensei? Right, the Junin replied, nodding. On the surface, we are bodyguards. What we're actually doing is finding out their exact intentions and powers. They are capable of feats previously thought impossible, if they can actually control the Biju. They can. Naruto spoke up. Not just a genjutsu either. QB was really screaming in pain when Yu-Gi-Oh did some funny thing. He indicated the motions with his fingers and accurately described QB's fear of a normal playing card. A portable prison, Kakashi stated, almost sweating as the implication of someone carrying one of the nine-tailed beasts in their pocket sank in. They're trapping the Biju in cards. Easy to hold and hide, and can be used in an instant. A most portable weapon. Why do you make it sound like Cardcaptor Sakura? Naruto asked. How do you even know the plot of Cardcaptor Sakura was on everyone else's mind? You know, when you say it like that, it really does sound eerily like Cardcaptor Sakura, Sasuke muttered. So, we must not fail on this mission. Kakashi started, rising up from his chair. I'm going to the Hokage Tower. 2 of the 4, including Yu-Gi-Oh, are arranging an appointment with the Hokage today. We'd like to arrange an appointment with the Hokage, Yami told the receptionist. The Hokage will see you now, a nearby Chunin nodded in their direction. She pushed back all of today's appointments for this. And called the council elders. And called Danzo. You must be pretty important. Perhaps, Yami non-committally replied, following the elite ninjas led towards the Hokage's office, while in truth he and his light were pretty surprised. Suna-de downed a cup of sake she had managed to smuggle into her office. After all, this was the deciding meeting of the QB's fate. Assuredly not Naruto's fate. It still did not mean that the sake was not needed. Plus, after Yu-Gi-Oh's warning, she found it impossible to sleep, attempting to suppress the instincts which screamed, "There are monsters under my bed, run." There wasn't any space between the floor and her futon for a piece of paper to go unnoticed, never mind monsters, but the fear persisted nevertheless. On either side of the Hokage desk stood the council elders Homura and Koharu, oddly quiet, and by the windows stood an impatient Danzo, also oddly quiet. They could, as shinobi, sense the dangerous power approaching at walking speed. The door opened to admit the two she had met yesterday, Yu-Gi-Oh and Yugi. Yu-Gi-Oh's piercing eyes seemingly scanning the room before flicking to Danzo, Homura and Koharu in order of succession. The killing intent was gone, replaced by cautious wariness, and Suna-de caught Danzo stiffen in her peripheral vision. Yugi, on the other hand, seemed curious and cautious, but hardly anything else. Both wore matching black vests under a khaki flak jacket, with khaki pants and multiple belts and dog collars on. The only difference other than mannerisms was that Yu-Gi-Oh wore a red fingerless glove on his left hand and black combat boots, while Yugi had on open-toed sandals and wore the other glove on his right hand. Side by side, they were contrasting mirror images, a stunning sight to see. "Come in." Suna-de rose, indicating to two chairs in front of her desk. "Hokage-sama," they greeted as one. "This are Elders Mitokado and Utatane of the Konoha Council, and over there is Elder Shimura. They will be here to oversee the case." The two exchanged significant looks before sitting. "Let us embrace brevity," Yu-Gi-Oh began. "I have some misplaced property that somehow found its way into your village and has been sealed for 12 years. The seal is in such a way that its removal would likely kill the undoer, and breaking the seal breaks both the vessel and the thing. Needless to say, this is extremely vexing," he added, emphasizing on the last word. "To clarify to the elders, please state the property under dispute," Suna-de replied as per protocol, secretly anticipating the old fogey's reaction. "I am speaking of the QB no Yonku," Yu-Gi-Oh airily stated. There was the sound of wood cracking, several gasps and chokes from the elders and above. In surprise, Yugi looked up to see several elite shinobi clutched to the ceiling, trying not to laugh. "This is the most ludicrous thing I have ever heard," Homura scoffed, turning to leave. "You have wasted our time, young man." "I think not," Yu-Gi-Oh replied, inclining his head. "I had a conversation before the Hokage herself and two other shinobi who were present last night to prove my dominion over the Biju under dispute." To the elder's shock, Suna-de slowly nodded. "Morino Ibiki and Hitaki Kakashi should be able to confirm his words," she stated. "But the Biju? It's a demon," Koharu cried. "How can it belong to a mortal? It reports to a boss, which then reports to another boss, which then reports to us," he flippantly replied. "Does that satisfactorily answer your questions?" "This is a very serious claim," Danzo gravely stated. "Do you have any proof?" "The witness of the sitting Hokage and two other ninja is not enough," Yu-Gi-Oh stated calmly. "What more is needed? The QB's word. If you wanted him here you could have asked. Even so, there is no way we can remove the seal without killing Uzumaki Naruto," Suna-de firmly replied. "Your property is thus irretrievable unless you can undo the seal without killing him." "Is this a challenge, Hokage-sama?" Yu-Gi-Oh's voice grew dangerously soft. "I could do it without killing him. It's just that I'll be consigning him to a fate worse than death if I do." What Yu-Gi-Oh here is requesting, Yugi took over, glaring at his partner, is that we are given the go-ahead to recover the QB. We will then be staying in the village to do so. We come in peace and a position of trust to do so. We are not endangering your village's shinobi, nor are we threatening your people. We cannot allow the QB to roam free again. Koharu heatedly protested. The last 2 decades saw a peace brought on by the sealing of the Biju, instead of widespread destruction that spread in their wake. Now every hidden village holds at least one Jinchuriki. To remove Konohas only serve to disrupt the balance of power amongst the 5 villages. "Yes, I fully intend to send all of them back to their world," Yu-Gi-Oh coldly replied. "It is just that you have 2 vessels here in Konoha. It is an extremely opportune moment to take back both of the tailed beasts." "Koharu is right," Danzo murmured. How do we know that you will not turn the QB against us instead? You don't, Yu-Gi-Oh replied. Just like I do not trust you to allow us to leave this village without joining your side. I am merely here to retrieve the QB, my property. If I cannot come to it, it must come to me. By any means necessary. If it is any consolation, I am prepared to compensate Konoha and promise not to allow the QB to ever harm your village ever again. However, I do not take any other sides, only mine. What can you give us to compensate for the lives lost fighting the QB? Homura stated, his voice rising with every word as he turned towards Yu-Gi-Oh. So many died in the senseless violence to kill the immortal. Our hero died for this cause. You cannot expect us to hand over the fourth Hokage legacy so easily. Yu-Gi-Oh sighed openly. Name your price. I will try to fulfill it if I can. They didn't get to say anything before a force like 100 anvils crashed down on them, almost sending them to their knees. Shinobi dropped from the ceiling in shock. Some dashing for the Hokage's door upon landing, whether on their feet, back or front. Only Yu-Gi-Oh and Yugi were unaffected, enjoying each other's company. I am one of 6 who control the shadows and their denizens, Yu-Gi-Oh pleasantly told the shocked Danzo and Tsunade, Kaharu and Homura having been knocked unconscious by willpower alone. I am someone who sees the Biju as property and almost unnoticeable property at that. Right now, I am respecting the office of the Hokage and the reputation of the legendary Sannin by not immediately ordering the QB to release itself or kidnapping the vessel. I am also beginning to lose my patience. Is there any other queries? The only conscious people, Tsunade and Danzo, mutely shook their heads. Tsunade was still gripping the broken Hokage desk, her left hand refusing to unclench from the wood grain. Yu-Gi-Oh raised an eyebrow at the sight. No? Good. I hope to receive your reply soon, Hokage-sama. Good day. Aibo, come, they turned around. Perhaps we can find the shinobi lady somewhere around soon. Be careful, Tsunade-sama, Danzo quietly murmured as the door closed. They scare me. Shimura Danzo was hardly a man who scared easily, having run Root Anbu and trained several emotionless shinobi, she knew. To have scared the Warhawk, as he was known in the Konoha Council, did not sit well with her, even if this provided conclusive proof of their claims. Is that a Keke Genke? Enko asked as she winced slightly in pain, the card on her neck glowing a dark green. The drain the process took on her was completely worth the prospect of being finally free of the snake Sannin. Never mind the odd looks from the ninjas surrounding them who gave them the occasional odd look. Not as far as I know, Yugi replied, peeling off the now-filled card. Do you want to keep it as a souvenir? I understand that some doctors do that, Mitarashi-san. Her expression turned from tired to somber as she stood up, tired but free. She held her hand out for the card. Thank you, she sincerely thanked Yami. I did not do it for you, he replied warily as she took the card. I did it for 2 reasons. Enko nodded. I know the first one's to prove your power, but the second? My Aibo wanted it. Yu-Gi-Oh shrugged, expression softening as his eyes wandered to Yugi's studiously studying the menu. What my Aibo wants, he gets. Even if it means wrestling a seal that was injected into a body off into a card by pure will alone. From the look on his face, Mitarashi Enko had no doubt as to that declaration's truth that the crimson-eyed youth would commit extreme mass murder if his partner so much as asked. So, what's your real name? She emphasized. As a special Junin, she had excellent hearing. He had hesitated on giving his name before, and surely no sane parent would name their child, Yu-Gi-Oh. I have many names, and they are feared by demons, even though they hide in my midst, he shrugged, standing up. Either way, you have my name now. What's good to eat here? Yugi asked as the waiter finally got around to their table to take their orders. It was widely known in Konoha that Uzumaki Naruto absolutely hated hospitals. Nurses and doctors alike complained that having him in the hospital raised the noise levels to unprecedented levels. The fact that he was hyped up on sweets sent from various fangirls to Sasuke, who had made the mistake of foisting it off on his teammate, certainly didn't help things. By lunch, Sasuke was ready to abandon his emotionless facade and face palm. Being confined to bed rest with a hyperactive loudmouth ninja in a kill-me orange jumpsuit was the worst torture ever. Sasuke privately suspected that the Anbu left Naruto here to torture him. It was either that, or face the possibility that being locked in a room with Naruto on sugar high was worse than any Anbu-prescribed torture. The only reason he refrained from saying it out loud was a deep desire not to give the sadists at T&I any ideas. Prior to this, Sasuke had never been forced to share a ward with Naruto, hence he never really realized how irritating Naruto could be on recuperating patients. Naruto's conversation while stuck in hospital seemed to revolve around bills, ramen, worrying about funds, ramen, worrying about the rest, ramen delivery. The only relief was when Naruto went to pester the rest of the retrieval team, who were stuck in the hospital for at least a week. The horror. Recuperating ninjas were hardly the best of patients. In contrast, young ninjas on the mend could have made the worst patients. Sasuke was only glad that Naruto had dashed off or hobbled as quickly as the crutches allowed for lunch back at his own room, thus leaving him to eat in peace. He would have complained if the other option was the stifling silence of the hospital which he loathed, even if it was precious silence. As it were, he could occupy himself abusing Naruto. He was thus very surprised to see his window open to admit two white-haired youths. Vaguely, he remembered them from the Valley of the End as accompanying the one named Yu-Gi-Oh! Security really needs help, one of the two, the one with sharper features commented as he helped the other down. We have ourselves one injured ninja here and hardly any guards. You'd think they place more guards around their wounded. Yami, this room is. The other, softer-featured youth was about to reply before being yanked towards the door by the one addressed as Yami. Right, let's see. Second to the right. The first one muttered as he opened the door, pulling the other, who gave Sasuke an apologetic look as they left. Sasuke blinked before returning to his lunch. It was then that the full situation hit him. Lunch tray flying as he leapt off the bed, he resolutely ignored his body's pain and dashed for the room second to the right from his. The Jinchuriki room. Naruto, I haven't beat you yet, don't die now, damn it. It took 2 hours to extract Shukaku from the one named Gaara. Well, it actually took 5 minutes to get Gaara to anywhere near comprehension and coherency and to explain the situation, 1 second for him to agree, and the rest to fully extract the demon, leaving behind bits of demonic chakra in Gaara's body to acclimatize it to the removal over the next 6 months. Finally, as Bakura stomped the last bit of the sand demon into the cart, much to Gaara's consternation, a loud hiss and 2 loud and angry exclamations from outside the room made itself known. Damn, they broke the barrier. Bakura swore. QB, I'll be back for you later, he muttered towards the door's direction, pocketing the demon-containing card. Gaara-san, you might want to send news to your village quickly. Ryu told a weary sand shinobi. You yourself would be unable to move for a while. Oh, and tell this Chiyo, whoever they are, that their ceiling needs work. Bakura added. We don't have time. He brusquely changed the subject as he stomped the last bit of sand off his black combat boots while making complex motions towards Gaara's direction. Hikari, let's go. Why? Ryu curiously asked. I left Curse of Dragon outside, and it tends to get noisily pyrotechnic if we don't get back soon. Bakura glared at the door which the shinobi were now pounding. Damn. Right, we'll have to make a run for it. Yami. Let's see, killing would ruin our plans, and Pharaoh's gonna be pissed if I seal any of them, and the purpose is defeated, so. We have to do this non-lethally, Bakura muttered, pulling a card from a deck holster at his hips. Dia bound, he commanded to the fiend that appeared. Take us to safety. The fiend unfurled its leathery wings and grabbed both Hikari and Yami, preparing to fly through the walls. Gaara was about to speak when it passed through the walls, leaving not a mark behind. The door flew open to admit Naruto and Sasuke, both holding their deadliest jutsu at the ready to pummel the guy to within an inch of his life. Where's the guy? Naruto demanded. Gaara didn't answer, just staring at the blank wall through which they escaped. Target secured. Bakura spoke to the copycat he conjured the moment they got to one of many of Konoha's empty training fields. Within the spellcaster's mirror-like face was reflected the face of Yugi and Yami, both nodding. Excellent work. Who saw you? Yami asked. The brat with hair like a duck's ass, Bakura replied. And the vessel? No one else. But the piles of sand left behind is a pretty big clue. Yami frowned. I see. Other than securing the relatively less secure Ichibi, which has been handled, I must research more on seals. Bakura, you and Ryu can. Wander around. See the sights, the smells, the local news. Maybe even overhear some ninja gossip. You're basically asking me to snoop, aren't you? Bakura snapped. Wall Shadow is doing that, Yami shrugged. What I am asking is for local news, such as where the important scrolls are and how to get them. Bakura nodded, awestruck in comprehension. Awesome, he grinned. Let's start thieving. Bakura. Ryu protested. If you want to steal, you don't say it out loud, and don't get caught. Bakura grinned at the petite light. Why, Ryu, he purred. Since when have I gotten caught? Have you no faith in me? He cried, mockingly grinning. Tell me, against all the deviousness of the Thief King and these shinobi and their paltry tricks, who do you think will succeed? I'm just saying that thieves don't usually announce what they're going to steal in broad daylight, Ryu protested. What, no protest against stealing in general? Bakura smirked. Wow, I'm really rubbing off on you. Excellent. Soon I'll make you wear that leather. Yami. Ryu growled. In private, Bakura hurriedly amended. Baby steps and all that. Yugi sighed. Please tell me you two aren't playing the romantic couple in public. Bakura looked around. Aside from the chirps of cicadas in summer, there were hardly any other sounds, and not a single human being in sight. Nope, we're not, by your definition of public, he replied. Right, the former pharaoh didn't sound convinced at all. So, you would please focus on stealing that stuff, while we see what we can find in this pile of books and scrolls, for lack of a better description for the state of this library. You get until tonight to rest. Pharaoh signing out. Thief King signing out, Bakura sighed, deactivating the copycat. The spellcaster soon dissolved back into a card which he snatched out of thin air. The Shadow Realm better get to inventing cell phones soon. Now, Hikari, he growled in a completely different way to a rapidly more nervous Ryu, let's get to that training. We have gotten news from the hospital. Tsunade reported to the council elders upon the Anbu messenger's disappearance. It seems like Bakura Ryu and Bakura Yami were side-entering from Uchiha Sasuke's window. Uchiha, due to his injuries, was unable to realize their intentions until they had barricaded themselves into the Jinchuriki room with a strange sort of barrier. Uzumaki Naruto was reportedly in the room of Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji, and thus only Sabaku no Gara was in the room. 2 hours later, the aforementioned Genin and one Chunin were able to break down the barrier, only to see a fully conscious if exhausted Gara surrounded by piles of sand and no sign of the intruders. From Gara's account, it seems like they have elaborated upon their intentions with the Ichibi, upon which, with his consent, they sealed the Ichibi into a card and left by summoning a demon with the upper half of a man, the lower half being the upper body of a snake inclusive of a mouth, and bat-like wings to spirit them through the wall and escape. A stunned silence greeted her conclusion. Furthermore, I have just received notice from the daimyo office of Ricefield Country. Tsunade shuffled a few papers about her place. The formerly corrupt daimyo has been replaced after Inari Castle was pillaged and sacked, reportedly by 2 demons, and the palace completely leveled without a single trace, save for a field of completely blank wasteland where it once stood. The current daimyo is a former Konoha refugee. In gratitude of the shelter the village has provided him in hiding him from the former daimyo, has cut the funding of the hidden village of Sound in half. And what do these 2 news have in common? Homura demanded. Although sketchy, we have here 2 artist sketches from the descriptions of the surrounding civilians. Tsunade handed them around. There was a round of gasps from shocked clan heads and elders alike. Also, consider that the Bakura twins and the Muto brothers entered from the Valley of the End, directly bordering Ricefield and Fire Country. Tsunade continued, her voice level despite the mounting trepidation in the room. It is reasonable to assume, from the similarity of description and ability, that at least 2 were responsible for the leveling of Inari Castle. How? A council member pointed out. The Anbu Tactical Room has pointed out how well protected Inari Castle is. How did they do it? We do not know, Kaharu shook her head. I now call a vote on the motion of if we should allow the Bakura twins and the Muto brothers to take back the QB, which they insist is their property and should be returned to them. A round of conversation and protests went up at that. Several present had seen the QB lay waste to the village 12 years previously, helpless to do anything but hope and pray. With the QB sealed, there was a general sense of relief. The strongest of the demons chained and at their mercy in a boy they could mold into a weapon or do away with. To have people claim that demon as their property was unsettling, if not downright scary. Do we have proof of such an outrageous claim? Another member protested. Before the witness of Morino Ibiki, Hitaki Kakashi and the Hoka guy herself, Tsunade coldly stated, the QB took on a spectral form of its own chakra and held a coherent conversation with one of the four, acknowledging his ownership and fear of them. The Ichibi also appeared and stated so. It could have been a hoax, one council member reasonably pointed out. Tsunade sighed. This was going to take a long while. Maeda Guy and his current only full-functioning student Tenten could do nothing but freeze at the power spread throughout the training grounds as they watched the two white-haired strangers fight. Grief tablet. The slightly more evil-looking one snarled, as a stone tablet appeared. Spell-shattering arrow. The other shouted as an arrow appeared out of thin air and aimed itself at the arrow before shooting itself, shattering the tablet. He looked to the side as the shards fell, where a lamp with a hand with a flame burning on its fingertips floated at the side, almost out of time. You think, Ryu? The first one snarled. Souls of the Forgotten? Swarm? Ryu seemed to panic as purple spirits arose around him, trapping him in. Shadow spell. The other yelled. Black chains leapt into being and flew straight for the purple spirits surrounding a strange, rainbow-colored reptile. The other white-haired one cursed. Clone dragon. Where the Ryu? For Ryu had just dashed out from the side, aiming a card at him. Spellbinding circle. A circle of light began to form around him. Trap jammer, damn it. The other swore. Another circle of light appeared around the first circle and broke both circles. Kunai with chain. A chain with a sharp piece appeared and encircled Ryu, preventing all forms of escape. Gotcha. Hey, Yami. Ryu protested. That, the other smirked as he yanked on the chain, was keeping with the rules. Fair's fair, now come here. It was amazing, Tenten reflected, how the pair could act the lovey-dovey couple right after leveling the training ground. Beside her, Guy had already fainted from the power of extreme youth, as he had declared right before fainting. Arg! Yami half yelled, throwing the scroll down on the table. Yami? Yugi questioned from his pile of scrolls. Any luck? No, Yami shook his head. From what I can tell, the seal is a prison, but specifics would be needed to reveal how to break it. Only from there then we can worry about how to subdue it. It is possible to subdue it without. Yugi played with his fingers nervously. I mean, it's important that the Biju are sealed, but the shinobi are not involved. You mean if we can do it without collateral damage? Yami nodded. With a wide enough area, yes. With enough action and speed, we would not even need such a wide area. But we would have to call upon a monster along the lines of Exodia or Zork. Well, if it's possible. Yugi bit his bottom lip, sighing. But, you'll be fine, right? As long as you live, Aibo, I will be fine, Yami assured, smiling. Neither of us can live if the other dies. That is the curse we now live. Really? Yugi's eyes widened. So being bound to each other is a curse? No, my Chibi-chan. Yami laughed, pulling Yugi closer. Unless our eyes wander elsewhere. And I don't intend to let my eyes wander away, so unless you intend to be unfaithful, MIW share. Yami. The guardians of the library tactfully ignored the pair. Team Kakashi. Tsunade began. I am assigning you AC rank mission, ranking slated to change on demand. The mission objective is to find out about our guests in the village while being their bodyguards. Shizune. The Hoka guy's assistant held up a discreet photograph of the group, taken from Konoha Customs. Nara Shikamaru has identified the shorter two as Muto Yugi and Bakura Ryu respectively, and the taller one with white hair as Bakura Yami. The taller twin of Muto Yugi is identified as Yu-Gi-Oh, although we suspect that is a pseudonym. They have come to Konoha, ostensibly to retrieve their property which they claim is the Biju within Naruto. QB acknowledges it, Naruto confirmed, although he's terrified, really. The group blinked. I see, Tsunade stated, masking her reaction. They have revealed an aptitude at summoning birds, warriors and golems. It is uncertain if they can summon more besides. Besides that, a high degree of knife-handling skill, killing intent to match the QB and a degree of protection against genjutsu, Nara has deduced that they are more or less civilians. Muto Yugi and Bakura Ryu he confirms as almost definitely civilian, and that Bakura Yami and Yu-Gi-Oh are the main dangers of the group. We have also received news which indicate that Bakura Yami and Yu-Gi-Oh are the probable parties behind the pillage, sacking and leveling of Inari Castle and the assassination of the daimyo of Ricefield Country 5 days ago. Kakashi's lone visible eye widened. Alone? On the surface, Tsunade nodded. Shikamaru notes that, although Yu-Gi-Oh and Bakura Yami are the main powers, they listen to the opinions of Muto Yugi and Bakura Ryu. Upon further observation during their travel back to the village via a giant green falcon, Naruto and a brave-faced Sasuke twitched involuntarily. He concluded that they are almost not a danger, save that they command absolute and unwavering loyalty in the other two. Focus around Muto Yugi and Bakura Ryu. Muto Yugi and Yu-Gi-Oh are in the Hokage Tower Library studying on seals. The Bakuri are at Training Ground 11, presumably training in their esoteric skills. The door flew open as the green beast of Konohagakure flew in with the dynamic entry. Hokage-sama. Bad news. Training Ground 11 has been flattened in a span of 10 minutes by two white-haired strangers. Those are our guests, Guy, Tsunade yelled, standing up as Tenten followed her sensei, depositing two white-haired young men on the floor. One turned doe-like eyes up to Tsunade while the other leveled a glare at the two shinobi. This is it. A near sibilant hiss escaped the other as he leveled his hands at them. Aibo, let's move, Yami exclaimed, standing up and stalking towards the entrance. Wah? Yugi could barely finish before he was dragged along. I forgot to tell Bakura not to seal anyone's soul, Yami explained as the pair moved towards the staircase in tandem. And I just felt the soul rip starting. Do you want to retrieve Shinobi from his cards? Crap. Yugi tried to run faster. The pair barely made it in time to intercept the ball of dark energy Bakura was readying in his hand in midair and save some innocent shinobi from being sealed. Pharaoh. Bakura barked, annoyed. Do you want to explain what would have happened? Yami pointed out. There was a slight pause. No, precisely. Therefore, it is not in your best interest to send them anywhere, Yami reasonably persuaded. Tsunade coughed. My apologies for your mistreatment at the hands of my shinobi. But news of your arrival is not exactly circulated amongst shinobi. Thus, Guy did not know that you were guests and presumably believed you to be pranksters, I think. Continuing on, you will be assigned Team 7 for as long as you stay within the village confines. It is appreciated, Yami replied coolly, studying the three shinobi. Let us take the opportunity to continue negotiations away from my council. Tsunade motioned for Guy and Tenten to leave, the two shinobi closing the door as they did. Tsunade performed some hand seals to activate the silencing jutsu before she leaned forward over her desk. As you have stated before, you have come for the Biju. However, I can now inform you that the 9 demons have been sealed into shinobi as well. Each of the 5 grade shinobi powers possesses at least one Jinchuriki, as these human containers are known. Naruto is one, as is Sabaku no Gaara, from whom your friend extracted the Ichibi from today. Yami shot a look at the suddenly nervous white-haired pair, and it was done with the permission of the shinobi in question, and the shinobi was not hurt, correct? Gaara is not Konoha's shinobi. Tsunade shook her head. He is the youngest son of the Kazeka Guy, and the Ichibi he held, she corrected, was widely considered Suna property. Suna could accuse us of stealing from them should Gaara return without an adequate explanation. We will solve that in good time, Yami nodded. Do continue with your concerns. There has recently been formed an organization called Akatsuki, Tsunade began. Although they are a mercenary organization on the surface, in actual fact all their members are S-class Nuke Nin. Their aim has turned towards capturing and sealing all the Biju. Members have come for Naruto before. Her eyes turned towards the blonde ninja in question, who stood straight up, the playful kid replaced with the serious shinobi. If they capture him, they will take the Biju and kill him. I see, Yami smiled thinly. It seems that in this case our interests overlap. I propose an alliance between us for this. Tsunade inclined her head. We will give you the necessary information and quite possibly assistance, while you would provide the power. Thus, you would have us kill the Akatsuki in exchange for such information. Yami nodded slowly. Quite advantageous to your village, Hokage-sama. We would require time to discuss this. In a gesture of faith, I will warn you, Tsunade sighed. Elder Shimura had a cadre of specially trained shinobi under his command called the Root Anbu. Although they are officially disbanded, knowing him, it is highly likely that they are hidden. He would most likely order your deaths to secure the balance of power between the shinobi countries. Thank you for the warning, Yami courteously replied as he turned to Bakura, the shadows cast over his face deepening. Bakura, did you hear that? If anyone attacks us, we have free reign. And if the light is attacked? Bakura replied, his own shadows darkening. Kakashi had the impression that these people didn't need bodyguards at all. Then, mercy is forgotten. The ease of long practice was obvious from the flat tone the words were spoken in. Yugi moved closer to his darkness as did Ryu to his, light touching the dark in a gesture of comfort. Tsunade saw red eyes once more as the shadows flickered away from the face of the ancient king. Do inform Elder Shimura on our behalf that we know where he sleeps, and the shadows are not on his side. Tsunade gulped internally, Kakashi's lone visible eye widened, and Sasuke's eyes narrowed as the four left. What did that mean? A clueless Naruto asked. It meant, Sasuke slowly stated, that if he tries anything, no matter how he hides, they will find him, and when he is vulnerable, they will kill him. You will join Team Kakashi in the guarding of these four. Yes. While undercover, you will find out their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and you will report it to me. Yes. You will be assigned a new name for this mission. Yes. Very well, now go. Sigh. Yes. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for today, guys.